It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of July 18th, 1997. We got 6 movies to look at today, a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Brendan Fraser starring in the live-action version of the animated TV series classic, George of the Jungle. So this is based off of the classic TV series from the 1960s, created by the same people that made Rocky and Bullwinkle, which in turn would get its own feature film a couple years after this in live-action form. We'll eventually get into that one too, but our focus is this one with Brendan Fraser starring in the title role. You got Leslie Mann playing Ursula, George's love interest, and Thomas Hayden Church is in this movie as well as Holland Taylor, Richard Roundtree, John Cleese plays Ape in the film. George of the Jungle, man, is a really damn good movie. It's a really good, straightforward adaptation of the classic TV series. They do a very good job of this with the satirical comedic edge to it. I mean, there's a lot of funny moments in here. Everybody is cast in the film very well here. The comedy is top-notch. The CG effects, for the most part, are fun. They're goofy at times. Like, I mean, his pet elephant Shep, who acts like a dog, the CG effect is not always memorable. Sometimes the CG on the dog and Shep looks actually kind of really dated, but at the same time, that's kind of part of the charm of the film. Like, this is made, obviously, over 25 years ago, so obviously the effects aren't really going to hold up as well. They do for the most part, but sometimes they do get a little bit corny here and there, but at the same time, you kind of have to admire it because of what the movie is. I mean, it's a straight-up satirical comedy. So in this case, I definitely say it works fine like it is. There are a lot of effects in this film that still kind of hold up there. You have a lot of the works of Jim Henson's Creature Shop working on this, as well as some animatronics that they have in here. A lot of CG was used, like I said. But they did a very good job of mixing in real animals, some puppetry, and CGI. And for the most part, it flows pretty well here, with a couple of the exceptions that I mentioned. But overall, man, this movie really is good. It's a really funny film. And yet, when I see some of these reviews from it, like, the whole Rotten Tomatoes has the critical consensus on this film, which is basically saying that, yes, it's faithful to the source material, but unfortunately, it makes it a less than compelling feature film, which, like, I don't know what you people want. Like, wasn't that really the problem with a lot of these movies that critics had a problem with it, is that some of these movies tried way too hard to not be like the source material, and now you have one that's literally like the source material. It's actually really funny, and then it's just like, nope, not convincing enough. It's just like, I just don't get it. I always thought maybe film criticism I thought back then was better than this. It is now, but I don't know. Maybe maybe it was always like that, but there were people that did like it. Of course, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert liked it. They gave it 2 thumbs up. It did get some good reviews, and, really, when has critical review... I mean, honestly, critical reviews don't really mean that much here. I saw it as a kid. I loved it, and watching it again recently, I think it's even funnier than it was back then. I think it is still very funny. Brendan Fraser just fits the role of George so well here. I like Leslie Mann in here. The comedy overall is just top-notch. It's just a really hilarious movie. It's a film that still it's held up well over time. It's just such a brilliantly funny film. I love it. A lot of people love it too. And quite frankly, if you see the film, you can kind of see why. Even if you didn't grow up with the original TV series, it's still just a good, fun movie. It's a ton of fun to watch. Very funny, very hilarious. And, yeah, man, it's just a really damn good movie. I love this film. If you haven't seen this one, definitely give it a shot. I think if you go into it with the right mindset, it's going to be a satirical comedy of the TV series. And even if you've never seen the TV series, I still think you could find more than enough here to get a whole lot of good laughs out of it. George of the Jungle, a really funny film. So let's go ahead and move on to the next film we have here, and that is Martin Lawrence and Tim Robbins in Nothing to Lose. This is Steve Odekirk's follow-up to Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls as the writer and the director. And it's a really funny movie. It's a really solid film with Tim Robbins and Martin Lawrence playing off each other. They have really good comedic chemistry. The movie is very funny. There's a lot of really good moments in the trailer. Probably the best moment is that scene at the end when Martin Lawrence is strapped to the chair and it's about to go off the thing, and Tim Robbins has to hurry and grab the window curtains to keep him from falling, and he still falls anyway. Like, Stuff like that is really funny, and there's a lot of good funny moments in this movie. I think these two work off each other very well. For Martin Lawrence, this was his first major movie role after Martin ended. He had been in a couple of other films before this, but this was the first real chance to show that he can have range as an actor outside of the show Martin, which had just come to an end a couple months prior to this, and it eventually led to a pretty successful film career for himself. And like I said, it's a really solid film, a great cast overall here. John C. McGinley, Giancarlo Esposito, Michael McKean, Kelly Preston, Rebecca Gayheart. You see Irma P. Hall there. Blake Clark also is in the film as well. It's a really solid movie. It's a very funny film. Tim Robbins and Martin Lawrence, they work off each other so well. It's a really funny premise overall. I really like it a lot. I think it's a very funny movie. A very underrated film from Martin Lawrence, honestly, compared to what he do later on down the road. But this is a really good film. I highly recommend checking it out. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Jackie Chan in Operation Condor. Okay, this is one of the weirdest releasing strategies I've ever seen for a Jackie Chan movie, or any movie in general, honestly, because this is the sequel to a 1986 film Jackie Chan did called Armor of God, which did actually came out after this movie here in America. See, what happened was Dimension Films, who had the U.S. rights to it, got them in '92. They didn't release the film theatrically until 1997 under the original title Operation Condor. And so with this new dub and and they had 15 minutes deleted from the final cut, this thing came out. But the original Armor of God, which came after this, didn't get a release in theaters until 2 years afterward in September of 1999. Like, it's one of those weird releasing strategies that they have here. I mean, you basically release a sequel to a movie that the first one didn't even come out yet. This isn't even like what happened with Mad Max. I mean, Mad Max did come out first, but The Road Warrior was pretty much everyone's introduction to the Mad Max series, and that was the second film. But the first Mad Max was at least released in theaters here in America before The Road Warrior did. You're just releasing a sequel before you even show what the movie is actually. The first movie even comes out, and as far as the film itself goes, I've honestly never seen it, but it says here that it's more akin to something like the Indiana Jones film series, which would make sense. Last Crusade, I think, came out just 2 years after this movie officially got released in Hong Kong, so I guess it kind of makes sense here. But as far as this movie goes, like I said, I've never really seen it before, so I don't really know if it's any good or not. It has some decent reviews to it, and it wasn't seen as a bad film by the reviews I see here. So, I mean, it's probably going to be good. I've seen the other Jackie Chan movies that were coming out at the time, Rumble in the Bronx, First Strike, is those type of films. So, I mean, it could be good, but it's just such a weird releasing strategy to bring out a sequel first before you even bring the original here to the U.S. I mean, it just feels really weird to do that. So that's pretty much all I know about Operation Condor, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and move on to the next film, Mrs. Brown. So you have Dame Judi Dench playing Queen Victoria, and when her husband Prince Albert dies, she finds solace in her trusted servant Mr. John Brown, but their relationship also brings scandal and turmoil. This is the latest film from John Madden, who his next film would be Shakespeare in Love. And this film, I don't really remember too much of it, honestly. I saw it a long time ago, but from what I did remember from it, I did enjoy it, mostly because of Judi Dench as well as Billy Connolly playing John Brown here. I thought he gave a really good performance in here. It's a very unusual performance from somebody that I usually see in his older form. Like, the first time I ever saw Billy Connolly was in stuff like The Boondock Saints and Brave, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. I didn't know he was in the X-Files movie until I really looked into it, but he looks very different in this movie than what I'm used to seeing here, and it actually does kind of, from what I remember from it, I did remember really liking his performance in here. I think that's the thing that really did carry me over from the one time I saw this movie several years ago, where that the leading performances by Judi Dench and Billy Connolly were so good. But like I said, it's been a while since I've seen this film, so I don't really know if it's going to hold up over time. But from what I remember from it, I do remember liking it, so there is that. So, that is Mrs. Brown. So let's go ahead and move on to the next film, The Swan Princess Escaped from Castle Mountain. And evidently this got a theatrical release. It actually got a theatrical release before it eventually came to video 6 weeks later, and literally 6 weeks later it came out on video. And I always thought this was just a direct-to-video sequel, but it's not. I mean, it looks like a movie that would have been on big enough for a theater screen, but other than Michelle Nicastro and also Steve Vinovich, nobody else from the first movie comes back in this movie. No Stephen Wright, no John Cleese, no Jack Palance. And, I don't know, the movie kind of feels like it's a very generic film. It's pretty much the same premise as the first film. And the first one wasn't even all that exciting, honestly. I was really bored by this when I watched this as a kid. I really never went back to it, honestly, nor did I go to the umpteen billion sequels that followed afterwards. I mean, at least with the Land Before Time sequels, there was at least one or two of them that actually did turn out to be okay, but Swan Princess, not so much. I feel like this series, it didn't really wow a lot of people with especially me with the first film, but I guess there was an audience for it because, like I said, they kept making sequel after sequel after sequel, so I guess there's an audience for this, but I'm not part of that audience, apparently, so yeah, quick one on that one. The Swan Princess Escaped from Castle Mountain. Let's go ahead and move on to the last film we have here, and that's the documentary Beyond Barbed Wire. So this is a documentary by filmmaker Steve Rosen profiling Nisi, who shows World War II combat over internment and detention camps for Japanese descendants. And this is basically a documentary about Japanese Americans serving in the American military in World War II from different walks of life. Pat Morita does the narration for this. It's a pretty long documentary, almost 3 hours long. I've never seen it before, so I don't really know if it's any good, but judging by the clip I see here, I think I'd rather watch this than watch something like Pearl Harbor, which I think is literally the same amount of time, because Pearl Harbor is, of course, a really bad film, but we'll eventually delve more into that when that comes out in 4 years. But as far as this goes, this definitely feels like something that probably is very good. It was on PBS a lot back in 2000, 2001. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually pretty good. So I've never seen it before, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Beyond Barbed Wire. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, we'll wrap July up with 4 movies, including Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman and Wolfgang Petersen's Air Force One, also with Glenn Close. Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell's Good Burger from All That comes to the big screen. Star Maps, and also The Winner. So 4 films to look at next time around, and we will delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and if you like what you see here, hit the like and subscribe button to see more videos like this. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time for another video, and until then, take care.